That Rent Act clearly states that now if you are paying a rent of 7,000 coming down, no landlord has powers to say you must pay 3 months, you must pay 4 months, you must pay 6 months. No. The law clearly says that from 7,000 downwards, you can only pay your rent month after month. No landlord has the right to ask you to pay 3 months in advance. If they do, and you agree, that's no longer my business, because the law is there to protect you. Take the matter to court, and my advice to such people is pay the person, but first allow the person to say that this is illegal. If you insist, pay, get your receipt, and next month go to court. That receipt will be your evidence. If your rent is increased beyond 5%, the law says no, they can only increase your rent by only 5% maximum within a 3-year period. And that simply means if you are renting $3,000, your landlord can only increase by $150. Just make a simple calculation of 5% of what you pay. Any amount above that is legal. Again, allow the landlord to say this is wrong, against the law. If they insist, pay, take your receipt, go to the court. Every magistrate court in this country has rent tribunals. Konga men fotron loi na be keri. Bol me loi na hadama de wole. Ni ka loi so la loi. Nteke ta mod me al ngana député bon as a private member bill anu député to ma be am tambe sakata loi. Ku dantam boy fole me al ka kumata kol ko wala killing. Ni te ka loi so jo kabu dal si wili woro wala kana way dumala. Ite manyan na karfula karsaba karnan jola loi ko hani te nyanda karkilin karkilin jola. Ni karo fa yela wili woro jo wala yela wili woro jo wala wili lulo jo. Luas la nako yo wul sabo ele wul woro si la wul woro jo kar saba karnan ba fala hani luwa man so na ko dia ko bakela a jo eristo ta eta kitio kitibuto ya saman luwa ko la luwa so ka lafa landlord ay sembo ka bun lafa bari keme o keme dal si lulu dal si keme o keme nyanta sul damana ka flaje ni misal te dal si wul saba ko le jo akoy ngene luwa so ka fu wuli keme saba ke wul kile is against the law anyanta dal na mo so ya jo eta kitio kadum wuli sabo keme keme das lowu das keme das talula ni la fa o fana ko me yalan ko kumara pour luas lal ani luas teol ka ya akalamda ni aboto oto loi kuma jama ku jama na jama ko ay kadati fana semetuyen ala bu ni dunta ko ya tar nyaami batlo wala tinyar be tinyar ne akije loi ko nyenta jola anu loi so fana agreement no nyenta talina temal ni karota da fois tan lo si mala loi so jo ay sembo so do kela tenancy agreement ni tinya ay bunti lo fana yele bunlo yele ko jama ki pour na fa so de lo fana tankare so bonoti je ite men ka loi so joba e kajo me yawa ay loi al bele tanka al ka bar ni me o moy loi tan nyini kono mo do nyenta tal kiti mo ka ni tan dawda ki banko ka rent tribunal national bi ah
Honourable wanted to find to the Gambia. Najile last Friday, we in collaboration with some stakeholders, we also co-organized on ratification of that. Being my National Assembly, yeah, Muna Kuma National Assembly works
me ya kuma ni wala nyindi ko loi bu ka tano de dano banko kan ni dibitol me dabula je parce que dibitol wolle ka loi de da say ni loi de dalal mantar kere loi ta sotono so na mabe woni discussion to bi wolum kaje ko ni op card mu fend me alonko man sa kunda sontala le bari ni man sa kunda sonta fenn me alonko agreement no même bantati janning abi tamano la banko kan fo ya na député bung le son wo son ka fo le ratification wala ken nyim kacha kumayata sa en be sa kalamuta muno mala kumati sa en nana député bung la aske kutu men ka sona del même ma be ta jang sin député mo nyol kachandi sa en si op kadni si keno fendi me alonko banko sa ratify no asdunna luwal ko andu ratification kuma menti ni man fen rectify amma beko hanni moyo loi tinya ita kitini nola kata mantra la banko luwal ko so ratification ka double banko luwal ko travel government domestication isa ya ni ku keta iso tamani no amare odo nin kacha pour divitole double je ku malo mati
Okay, ni workshop ko batala. Ni rekla tula simpan.
Dalla simpanya men elementi kadum amanke wajibotin telkan ko ratification o samba parliament man sakundale nyanta natlantel nyati no wala nyanta kala baniya wajibo tentel kan baniya tare hansa telmana no da simpanya do tanole ministry mem martaw ko wala minister of justice nsia nyinin kan muna ken hansa manyin natin mun nyati no ningo preso demandin la kan sa man sakunda fana sa tariato natino nsi ken so laftan so be kan to simpanya nim bata jang na be minister of justice ni be kaja so la in silo aletal nata no ngin kan no just a little bit a while nsi parliamentary question post no man justice like aina afa muna ken hansa of card man na ntul nyati no but it's not late munto bunto ni li parole kala kasi bunto woto amam fulan to lan notice baring mo nate ite badi mu kasi bunton quality e kibar senu so tane dalle ko so tane ko ya lapile woto ite right so tane kam man sakunda samba kiti wala katu lapiro anin kam mo freso wo fo lapiro lomban fu ku nyaawo nyaame ya kisim hada badu man torano sawo lo alni banko manyana kala so nata be kala surtout momi yalan ko ibe maro kono meni yete mara wolbo klimbala keletala nata la wulala yakalamuda wata nyanta la wulala kan sa a make so do matanya ta ko kar ni luwa be laran kiti mul nyaada mol manta kiti na fata la luwala bari tocho nya sio be nyama fo ya la pile bang fo ya so ne wala bang fo sexually ya accuse avec bang fo ya minni fenela nyim be mu tocho luwa nya kono fo no baketal woto ni mo moyaje ko la right ya violate the right thing is alta kiti wala kiti bu buka tama kan tala la bu
Honourable ye ren akunu ko jang bab ko agra kuma ta
ha wala nyinti ko ngame foto luwa na be keri bol me luwa na hadama de wonde ni ka luwa so la luwa nteke ta mo me al ngana liberté bu as private member bill anu liberté to ma be am tambe sakata luwate ku danta mbo fo le me ka kumata kol ko wala kring ni te ka luwa so jo kabu dal si wuli woro wala kana way dumala ite manyan na karfula karsaba karnan jola luwa ko hani te nyanda karkilin ne jola ni karo fa yela wuli woro jo wala yela wuli woro jo wala wuli lulo jo luwas la na ko wuli sabo yela wuli woro jo si dal wuli woro jo karsaba karnan ba fala hani luwa man so na ko dia ko bakela a jo yeristo ta eta kitio kiti buto ya sama luwa ko la luwa so ka lafa landlord ay sembo kala bun lafa bari keme o keme dal si lulu dal si keme o keme nyanda dal si lulu damana kaf laje ni misal te dal si wuli sabay ko la jo akoy nele luwa so kaf wuli keme sabo ke wuli kile is against the law anita dal na mo so ya eta kitio kadum wuli sabo keme o keme dal si lulu dal si keme dal si talu la nyando lafa o fana ko le me alan ko kumara pour luwas lal ani luwas teol ka ya akalamda ni aboto oto luwa kuma jama ku jama na jama ko ay kadati fana semetu yan ala ko bu ni dunta ko yatal nyami batlo wala tinyar be tinyar ne yakije luwa ko nyanta jola anu luwa so fana agreement no nyanta talina tema ni karota da fo ay tan luwa si mala luwa so jo ay sembo so do kela tenancy agreement ni tinya ay bunti lo fana yele bunlo yele ko jama ke pour na fa so ni ala fana tankare so bonoti je ite men ka luwa so joba e kajo me yawa ay luwa ni al bele tanka alka bar ni me mo luwa tan nyani kono mo do nyanta tal kiti mula kadu ni tan dawda ki banko kan rent tribunal national bi
barka
ala baraka
we have learned that the anti-torture act, which is the detention and prosecution of torture, was passed in 2023. And here there is a deliberation about the opt-out. So what is your National Assembly doing to verify that opt-out because we learned the
thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be on the platform. Yes, you're absolutely right. The torture act is in place now. The assembly was able to pass that with little or no issues at all because we know torture generally is anti-human right. You should not really inflict pain on somebody either by way of getting information from the person or because you just want to uncomfort the person. It is just inhuman. So as a result, the Human Rights Committee, which I chair, of course with the support of the rest of the National Assembly successfully passed the act a year ago. And now, responding to your question, the ratification of OPCAD, what the Parliament can do now is to implore on the government through the Minister of Justice to bring the agreement before the Parliament. We cannot act on things that are not before us, but we can also trigger things to come before us. And that's where I am coming from now. There is a need, since we have the Torture Act in place, there is also a need to ratify the OPCAD, which will really put us in a very good position internationally in terms of violation of people's basic rights.
Yeah, so when it comes to the OPCAD, the ratification is triggered by the government. So when it comes to the Parliament, if the government triggers, what will the Parliament do? And what is the benefit of the OPCAD?
Now, we will definitely go ahead and give our support in terms of ratifying it, because the issue of ratification is if an agreement or a law is not ratified, even though if you sign the agreement, what it means, you cannot try anybody on that because it is not domesticated. So the ratification of agreements and laws means that you can use it in our local judiciary system. Otherwise, you cannot do it. So that is the most important thing about OPCAD. And like I said, since the members of parliament willingly had this law in place, we will not have any other option other than to smoothly ratify the agreement when it comes before the parliament. Why is it not before the parliament? Is where we can play a role as well. We can engage the Minister of Justice. So why are you not bringing this before the parliament? So the ball is now in the court of government, and particularly the parent body, which is the ministry that is quite responsible, as Minister of Justice. They are the one really need to push and bring it before the parliament so that it can be ratified. When it is ratified, then it places us in a very good position internationally.
So in your statement, in the opening statement that you did, you mentioned about your work as the commission, as the committee, human rights committee in the National Assembly. You have gone to prisons or cells and visited them and give recommendations. So what type of recommendations do you normally give?
I'll be specific because anytime we go out, we have an objective. When the committee goes out to visit detention centers, we go out with the lenses of saying, yes, these people have issues with law and it is legal for them to be detained. But then when you seize their liberty of movement, you are obliged to give them certain basic things because they cannot go and fend for themselves. Among that is food. You must give them good food and enough food. Shelter is key also because they cannot go and fend themselves shelter. So you have to create a shelter for them that is fit for living. So these are the lenses we use when we visit our prison centers to look at the accommodation, look at the amenities there, look at the food aspect of the sanitary aspect, look at their toilet facilities, and also look at how protective these inmates are. Whether they are just temporary people who are in the police cells or at the remand wing of the central prison, or they are permanently convicted for a number of years. So their conditions of living must be up to standard. We're not saying that you give them all the liberty, but the liberty to food, the right to food, right to health, the right to sanitation must be guaranteed. So when we visit these centers and we see some of those shortcomings, in our reports and recommendations, we will recommend that, for example, they must be given a balanced diet. We also recommend that there should be the sanitary conditions must be excellent, and they must have a neat and clean place to sleep. They must have mattresses, they must have clean blankets, they must have good mosquito nets, anything that is good for human survival. We will recommend these things. And then when we recommend that, because we intermittently visit these places, so after 2-3 years we go back with what we have recommended and how we found the situation and compare it with the current situation. In instances where the situation is not improved, then we can come up with sanctions because the members of parliament have that power to sanction the ministry that is responsible. And in this case, the Minister of Interior, they are the responsible for the police stations, the prison services, and so on. So these are kind of, basically our recommendations are based on human rights.
So after your recommendations, and you guys went back to the place and see what the condition there recently and previously. What happened there?
We have seen a tremendous improvement. There were times we went to few, I can just name you a few police stations which conditions were horrible. Uh, in Farafenni, when we visited Farafenni, was a small prison cell for people who are arrested. And that particular visit, I think we found over 7, young men in that cell. And there is only a small hole on top of the cell where they can get ventilation. And for inmates at that cell to get fresh air, they will stand on each other's back to get to the top and get some air and come down. We made sure that that particular day, a big window is open for them. I personally called the then commissioner responsible for North Bank to say that we cannot leave this place in this condition. It must be changed. So we had a service of a welder man in the city, in Farafenya town, that worked on it, and before we left. That is one thing we have done. In Sarangai also, we did the same thing. And but when our subsequent visits after that, because we go randomly, we cannot go to every police station. We have seen some have improved very well. And for the prisons, yes, our first visit, the food was terrible. The remand wing was over congested. And what we can do to decongest the remand wing is to meet with the judiciary, because they are there waiting for their cases. So we had a meeting with the CJ, the Chief Justice, to say that one of the reasons why the remand wing is congested is because of your department. If the processes of courts are going on, that place will be decongested. They will either be free or sent to prison for to serve their convictions. So these are some of the things we do. And like I said,
What Honourable, we have seen recently allegations to remand. They said the remand is very inconvenient. And actually, people are saying how many people they normally put in, like 23 or 28. So, through your recommendation, what have you guys, I mean,
the mitigations that the prison director had created, at least to decongest the remand wing, is to take some of the remand prisoners to just one prison. Because remand wing at mile 2 is one small block. It's always congested. Always congested. Like I said, the factors are many. Uh, More people are committing crime, they are coming, and the process of trials are slow from the judicial section. As a result, it becomes congested. So, what final thing we have suggested to recent department is to expand the remand wing, and they have already put up a structure recently. If you pass by, you will see a structure there with the intervention of UND.
so are we hoping to see remand
Two,
to be maybe to change or to be improved or to be
well, like I said, the improvement there that is already there, though one cannot say it is 100% satisfactory. The food condition, the cells condition, I mean the convicted prison, the main yards, the sanitary, the toilets facilities, we've seen that. That has improved, but it still needs improvement because, mind you, more and more people also are committing crime. So for the remand wing, I think there should be a lot, kind of a lot of sensitization to make sure that people are law abiding. Because if the remand wing is meant for 20 people and then 100 people are committing crime, then government has to step in and have an alternative. That is either to build more prisons or, like the prison director would do, transfer some to just one prison, which is very spacious. This is what they can do as a mitigation. But us, as a committee responsible for human rights, are always on top of the government and anybody for that matter. We want people to have a decent way of living, whether you have gone against the law or not. Your right, those are basic rights that nobody can take from you. People, once government detain you, it is the right, it is an obligation of government to make sure that you get those basic rights. Food, shelter, health must be provided.
My last question here. We have seen that Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act was passed. However, no prosecution has been made, and we have seen the recent year of done. What is your concern regarding that?
Well, always I would say people must test the laws. As lawmakers, we can make laws so that it can be mechanisms that can be used against those who are gone against it. The Torture Act is in place now. If somebody is tortured, somebody must be responsible of taking that person to taking that matter to court. If you feel that your relative's right is violated, and you decided to use the government system of maslaha, discuss I'm going to leave it, well, that's little that I, as a member of parliament, can do. What I can urge the citizenry is to make use of the laws that are there. And that's why we are there to make laws and make sure that people's rights are protected. The lack of prosecution, I would really have little to say about that. But I can tell the general population that these laws are there now. Before, if you are tortured, nothing can be done. Even if they take you to, they will charge you for some other things, but they cannot charge you for torture. And they cannot try you because the legislative piece is not there. But now we have it. So I think people should really seize that opportunity and maximize the usage of our courts. You're most welcome.
Do you have any message that you want?
Not part of your question, but I will talk about the rent private members bill that I took to the parliament. And people are saying, yes, they are increasing this, they are doing this, and they are not going to court. That rent act clearly states that now, if you are paying a rent of 7,000 coming down, no landlord has powers to say you must pay 3 months, you must pay 4 months, we must pay 6 months. No. The law clearly says that from 7,000 downwards, you can only pay your rent month after month. No landlord has the right to ask you to pay 3 months in advance. If they do, and you agree, that's no longer my business, because the law is there to protect you. Take the matter to court, and my advice to such people is pay the person, but first allow the person to say that this is illegal. If you insist, pay, get your receipt, and next month go to court. That receipt will be your evidence. If your rent is increased beyond 5%, the law says no, they can only increase your rent by only 5% maximum within a 3-year period. And that simply means if you are renting $3,000, your landlord can only increase by $150. Just make a simple calculation of 5% of what you pay. Any amount above that is legal. Again, allow the landlord to say this is wrong, against the law. If they insist, pay, take your receipt, go to the court. Every magistrate court in this country has rent tribunals. So these are some of the things. I'm sure there are a lot in it, but just to give you a few examples as to what people should do. If we have the laws, let us go to the courts. The courts will not walk into our houses. No.
But do you think also that people are aware of these laws?
It's whose responsibility to do that? But since this bill was in the formulative processes, media has done a very good job by talking to me every day almost. So, and that's what they can do. And that's you are doing right now. It's a brilliant question. And anytime I'm faced with such questions, I say, okay, what I will have to do is maybe to outsource a kind of money and do a general sensation on the TVs and the radios, because you survive by advertisement, so that money, some little money goes to your media houses, and we keep talking about this until people are aware. That I have not done yet, but I would try to do that.